And I believe that we are live. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we have two wonderful guests. We have Kelly and Vivien from Jan Marini. Welcome.
Hi,
Hi,
Stef.
Steph. Hi, everybody.
And what I'm going to do, so don't freak out, girls. I'm going to actually press hit record because I forgot to do so earlier. So you're going
Okay.
to hear Siri saying, there we go, recording in progress. We've got such a good live for you tonight. We always talk about this incredible topic because we're in the skin industry about, treating skin holistically, about, all the wonderful things that we can do to achieve holistic skin health. And so we thought we were talking with these wonderful ladies a couple of weeks back, and just the wealth of combined knowledge of the two of you blew our minds, and we thought we have to do a live because our audience is going to absolutely absorb and love everything that you both have to say. So tonight we're going to be talking about holistic skin health and something added extra, skin metabolism, which is something that's overlooked. A lot of times we don't really talk about it as often as we should. And so before we start the live, I would love you both to introduce yourselves as well and tell our community about yourself and your expertise. Let's start with you, Vivien. Tell us all about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm a registered nurse. I trained in a public hospital and worked in a lot of hospitals around the place. My focus was in theatre, and that sort of led to plastic surgery. And so I spent many years managing a plastic surgery practice, working as an assistant to the surgeons. And it became really evident that people could have procedures done, and cosmetic surgery was starting to take off in the, mid 90s, I guess. And their skin still looked terrible. So we would see all these amazing results, surgical results, but still terrible quality skin. And I think that really got us interested in lasers, etc. We started a clinic, Erase, in Melbourne in 1997. So a long time ago. We were the first retail facing non-surgical clinic in Australia. So I think we brought in the second Fraxel ever into Australia, and we've really tried to keep up to date with all the technologies. We have only surgeons doing injectables at our clinic, and that's just a marketing thing. It's not because we don't love injecting nurses. We would love injecting nurses, but we've kind of just gravitated towards surgeons. So part of the setup of the clinic was to get a good skincare range, and we were really after MD formulations, which Jan Marini had founded. And she had sold that at the time and had started her own brand, her eponymous brand, Jan Marini Skin Research. And she did that because big companies with lots of investors tend to go off on tangents. It's really just about return on investment for them. So she wanted to start a brand that she owned 100% forever, so that she could develop technologies that she was particularly interested in. So she had started Jan Marini Skin Research. So that was the brand that we decided we'd get in. We had to have skincare in our clinic. And amazingly, we reached out to them to ask who the distributor was, and she said, we don't have one yet in Australia. Would you like to do it? So we took it on. They only had a international distributor in the UK at that stage. So we were their second international distributor, and we've just gone from there, from strength to strength. We absolutely love it. It was a huge learning curve, but central to our mission with Jan Marini Skin Research is to provide people with the tools to really turn people's skin around, to help their clients manage their skin. And that's so important to us when we've had obviously 22 years experience doing that. So I'll hand over to Kelly so she can give her background too.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so
Yes.
much for sharing, Viv. Yes, Kelly, tell us about yourself.
Um, where do I begin? I don't even think Viv's heard this story actually, but when I was 8, I had third-degree burns on my face.
Goodness.
And through that in Brizzy, little old Brizzy, way back then, I was actually at a holiday place at Ballina, and a long story, but back then they didn't have any formal burns protocol. So I had to get transport up to the Brisbane Royal Hospital. Now, at the time, there was a doctor there that was very into innovative care with burns. And we're talking 40 years ago, maybe longer, actually. Not going to give my age away that much, but it was a bit longer than that. So long story short, I spent 6 months in hospital. And at the time, a lot of doctors were saying to have skin grafts, but the doctor that I was with said no, and he put me through a lot of salt therapy baths and removal of dead skin cell and all of this sort of stuff. So, and I spent lots of time going back and forth, all through my teens and everything. Just not maintenance, but just being aware. It was more like a study that I was involved in. So then, fast forward, I went to uni, did science, didn't really like it, did it, graduated. And then my mum actually said, why don't you become a beauty therapist? So Alabache back in the day was actually had their training centres all over Australia. And I was very fortunate. They were magic. There was a great lady called Linda Patterson there at the time. So there may be a few old stalwarts that are out there that still know Linda Patterson, and she was a real mentor. And from there, I've been very fortunate in that I was a trainer and then I got involved in the business, and my pathways have led me across a lot of great people that have mentored me in the industry. I actually worked for Mandy Gray, who brought MD formulations in.
Wow, yes, I remember that.
So, and it's, you know, it's serendipity. I've arrived at the place I'm meant to be. Science is my thing. I am a skin nerd. You said that before when you started.
We're all skin nerds here.
And I've arrived at Jan Marini Skin Research, and it's like, oh God, I've come home. At this, every day I'm still learning. Like every day, today I'm writing some stuff for an upcoming event called Evolve we've got, and I was doing some research, and Viv and I bounce off each other, and the science and this that what I'm learning at this stage in my career is just magic, and I've got Viv to thank for that, for bringing me on the platform. So that's my background. I think that's the magic of the industry, is that we can all learn of each other. Like Stef, you brought us on here, and it's just that, come on, bring it on. Let's just pass on each other's knowledge. So that's my
Absolutely.
buzz of it all.
Wow. And you know what? I would never have guessed that you had sustained, back to your 3rd-degree burns, something for starters so traumatic and really horrific. But your skin quality is just insane. It's like with no treatments, just holistic things.
Well, I often blame my mum. She should have invented the skin swimsuit, because we had a really good friend that was a dressmaker for ballet classes. So like when I was, imagine how embarrassing, and I'm fair anyways, that doesn't help. But when I was like 9 years old, I was wearing the full-on ballet costume to go swimming in, because I had to cover, I was burnt from my chest up, basically. So that was a full-on thing I had to wear. And then mum in those days was just zinc, the full-on proper white zinc. And occasionally she put pink or purple or whatever on just to make it. And the credit being, what's the most anti-aging thing in the world? Sun damage, right? So I had brand new baby skin, and serendipity, like all these years later, mum and dad just kept me completely covered from head to toe, which is now the trend. And I really owe it to that. And then I've been in the industry since I was like 21.
Okay.
And the good thing with skincare, any skincare, and Viv and Steph, you both know, and anybody out there, it's using it every day. Like
consistency, of course.
Consistency of the use. Quality obviously is very important. We'll get into that. But I've got daughters, using it every day. It's got to be part of your routine, day in, day out. It's not something you want to, I want good skin, I'll do it this week, I won't do it next week. It's something you
sound like me, no. Sometimes you get really busy, and even someone like myself who's a formulator, you should be doing it every day, and then you're like, oh, I'll just do the basics today. But it's such a seminal moment of what you experienced. All of us, when we're young or growing up, I feel like the common thread when I have guests on is that every time somebody shares a story, it's when they're younger, they're impacted in some way, and that spurs on their interest in the skin industry, or what we can do with skin, and then that what fuels our passion, and then we're driven by passion the whole way through. And you know what we see for our members in the industry is that most people are in this for passion, they're not in it for money. And we learn a lot about skin and skincare, but we don't learn a lot about how to run our business as well, and how to make things profitable. And because we feel like, well, we're in the game to help people, we're not in the game to take money from them. But in actual fact, that is just as an important element, you know, an equal exchange, to be able to stay in business is very important, because you are able to do so much for your clients, and you deserve to be repaid for that, and you deserve to have a successful business. And sometimes we forget that because we're so driven by the passion and our purpose, and each of our purpose, it seems, it stems from a very young age. And today we're talking about something that resonates now even more deeply when you talked about your experience of the burns, and that skin metabolism. Because of course that plays a huge role in recovering skins, right? So a skin that is compromised in some way, your skin metabolism plays a massive role in how that recovery takes place, whether it be a burn like you experienced, whether it be inflammation, whether it be pigmentation or aging. That your skin metabolism really determines how quickly you recover from trauma, and how quickly, and I suppose how, not even quickly, how well your skin restores back to normal balance and health. And that's what we're talking about today. So my first question to you is, very exciting. Please tell us, we would love to know, what is skin metabolism exactly? Describe it to us.
Okay, Kel, you are happy for me to go ahead and
Go for it, Viv.
respond to that? Skin metabolism, skin is an organ like any other organ. And 10 years ago, I did a course in Washington, DC, run by all the medical research institutes. And I learned so much from that. That was the beginning of the discussion about the skin being its own microbiome, similar to the gut. And I came back and was presenting this stuff everywhere, and everyone said, "What are you talking about? Don't be silly." And now it's like everyone takes it as gospel, right? There's a real axis: skin, brain, gut. And skin metabolism, you have to have healthy skin. So it will respond to ingredients if its underlying health has been stabilized, if the microbiome is in a state of homeostasis, which is where everything's settled, functioning well. So one of the biggest issues that we have is skin inflammation. And it's just like gut inflammation. When you have an inflammation in the bowel, you address your diet, you do things that will help, you exercise more gently, you try and de-stress your life a bit, declutter your mind. There's so many things that you put into it. And it's the same with skin, exactly the same. If you're suffering from hyperpigmentation or other forms of discoloration or rosacea or acne, they're all inflammatory conditions in the skin. So our philosophy is to calm that inflammation, and we do that really successfully through the peptide ingredients. They're signal ingredients, and inflammation is all about signals within the skin. So you have toll-like receptors, they're called, right on the surface, even on the very outer stratum corneum, which are dead cells. They still have these toll-like receptors, which are active receptors. And something hits your skin, whether it's UV light, some chemical in a skincare product, whatever it might be, perfumes, whatever you're using, on whatever comes into contact with your skin. The toll-like receptors will trigger an inflammatory response if they don't like what they're experiencing. And that travels through the skin's layers, signal to signal, until it starts to affect things like blood vessels. Neutrophils are recruited from blood vessels to try and fight what it perceives as an infection. So this inflammatory process goes on, and that manifests as the signs we see on people's skin: pustules, cysts. The acne process is a little different, but certainly for rosacea and hyperpigmentation, it's all part of that inflammatory response. The acne process is more about blockage in the follicle and the C. acne bacteria. collecting within that blocked follicle, chewing away at the walls of the follicle, excreting a toxin which creates an inflammation, and then you get a breakout. So the metabolism of the skin, it's really busy, active. There are millions of processes going on in any given moment. So what skincare should do is calm all of that down. Then you can introduce, ingredients that are specific or to target specifically the concern that you're trying to address. So we always say with Jan Marini Skincare, we're not just products, we're solutions. So we try and find a solution for people's skincare, for people's skin concerns. And I think that over the 22 years that we've been partnering with Jan Marini Skin Research, we haven't had, a single case where people really can't tolerate this skincare.
Wow.
And I think the whole thing about, individualized skincare, that's very true. But first you have to settle the microbiome of the skin, and the metabolism has to be normalized and made to function in a healthy fashion.
Yeah, Viv, and I totally agree with that, because if you look at what metabolism is, it's basically a conversion of energy, in the basic raw form of it, glucose, carbohydrates, it creates energy. And I doing all of this, because Viv and I, we said we're science nuts, I did a bit of research, and I read a paper that was just produced out of the Public University of Zurich, and it's the first actual paper that's ever been done on the individual metabolism of the skin. Because, it's the largest organ in the body. We all know that. We all get taught about that. But we don't look at what an organ is. Like an organ, and particularly it's an epithelium, so it can replace itself. So how does it replace itself? By making new cells. Now that's energy. Like, you need to do that. And we always, I know when I still sticks in my mind, the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Like, we learn all of that way back. But what does that really mean? When you go to the real crux of it, what Viv was talking about, what does that really mean? Well, the skin, and the epidermis has to replace itself all the time. I teach that when I'm out. You cut yourself, it heals. How amazing is that? You get a rash, it will heal. But it does that through energy transfer, through your metabolic rate, and using metabolites and enzymes. And as Viv said, the chemical process is so amazing what happens in this minute little millimeter of skin. And we underestimate that a lot. We really do. And I think we need to look at that in more of the amazement that it is. And I think that's our passion about it. But going back to what Viv says, it's that health of the skin. People always say the first place when you're sick, your skin looks awful. Yeah, because the metabolic rate slowed down, because in the hierarchy of organs, everything else needs it. You have a big night on the drink. What looks awful? Your skin, and it's all that process. But in order to look at any skin disease, which aging is, pigmentation is, if you look at the dermatologist and the plastic surgeon world, they're all skin diseases. We're not born with them, right? So they're a skin disease. It all stems back to our metabolic rate and how well we transfer energy in our skin, and how well we create new cells in our skin. And so the Jan Marini skincare research products, as we've talked about, enable an environment where your skin can do that better, because ultimately what we're doing is we're feeding signals, we're creating signals, we're speeding up stuff, we're providing a better environment with our skincare to make the skin function better. So looking at metabolism of the skin is all about creating the best, I like to say it, the best possible environment that any individual person's skin can be in at that state by using our skincare.
Yep. If we can achieve homeostasis in the skin, then you can target specific issues that you'd like.
Like being fit. Hey, Viv, you're fit, you better respond to everything. So that's what we talk about at that whole.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm just sitting here mesmerized, listening and absorbing. And I love the way you put things. Like, everybody's got their own spin on how they explain things, right? And so you have such an elegant way of explaining skin metabolism and all those thousands upon thousands of processes that are happening at the same time in the skin. And you referred to the study that was done in Zurich on skin metabolism. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I actually have looked at that study, and it really is the only one I could find as well on skin metabolism. It is fascinating. If you're out there, we should actually share that study, because it is a fascinating study. And what we are finding out now is that we're only starting to touch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to skin knowledge and function.
Yes.
We think we know everything that that comes to skin, but really we're starting to really understand the signaling, the deeper message, the brain skin connection, and how your skin talks to your brain and your brain talks back to your skin, how your organs communicate with your skin. Your liver directly communicates with your skin. Your kidneys directly communicate with. There's direct lines of communications to every single organ that we have.
Steph, we're the only external organ, right? So it's receiving signals from
and delivering them directly to our insides. Now, this is incredible, because we thought our brain controlled all of our bodily functions and controlled everything, but actually they all work in concert with each other, and they're all communicating with each other. Every part of our body is communicating with each other. And now there's even studies to show that our brain is not only in our head, in our noggin, it's actually all over our body through our neural pathways.
Nervous system.
So our nervous system is our brain. The brain no longer sits in our head. It is actually extended all the way through our body, and our skin has its own brain, right?
Isn't it crazy that the three of us are excited about this? Like, am I like thinking, am I the only crazy one thinking?
And I can tell you that even the most scholarly, the most academic of research scientists as a whole, as a whole group, even they would say we're barely scratching the surface of this. We have such limited understanding, because how do you measure neurotransmission? How do you measure, peptide signaling? It's just not possible at all. It all just has to be modeled. So they go down to the minutest possible scenario, measure that, and then extrapolate it out. So there's a huge body of knowledge still being developed.
We are a bit off track, but we're fortunate way. Viv and I are always off track. But it's fortunate in a way that we talk back to money, Steph, and I'm a national sales manager, so I'm very big on, if we don't make money, no one has a business, right? And I'm very big on that. So like it or love it, the industry's in a very interesting way, with equity getting involved, multinationals getting involved, because they can see the profit in it. But that gives money to research and development. Because, and I think that's the thing with skin, if you look at a positive of that, there's a lot more research and development dollars that can go into the industry, and that's where newness comes about, and that's where you gain knowledge, and you get breakthrough technologies, and you do all of that. So I think we're really on that verge of discovering some great stuff.
Yeah, I read somewhere that the amount of processes that happen within our skin and our body, that billions and billions of processes are more than the stars in the sky. When you think about that, it is mind-boggling what's happening in our body and within our skin. We are just scratching the surface, and we understand, I think, in this profession so acutely how we can modulate skin responses through external factors, where previously in the medical world they thought, oh no, your skin cannot possibly do these things with external ingredients. They possibly cannot react in that way. We possibly cannot change processes by simply putting something on top of our skin topically. And that has been blown out of the water completely.
And Steph, and I'm going to do a bit of a pun here, but I have never and I've worked with lots of brands, and I acknowledge all the brands I work with and my journey. But Jan Marini Skin Research has that ability, like to physically go, holy moly, in a short period of time. And that was one of the aha moments for me, was like, all right, okay, that happened quickly, and that's to deal with the signaling and the receptors and response. It was like, oh, okay, that all right. that was good. And that was a real, and Viv and I still go, all right, that was interesting.
It's incredible, really. And I think that goes to their relationships with medical research institutes. That's something that we don't really understand in Australia. So the only labs of equivalent spec or capability would be at the CSIRO. The only they would still be very low level. So the CSIRO doesn't work with private enterprise in Australia. So when you go to Silicon Valley, where Jan Marini is headquartered, and you see the biotech infrastructure, you know, the ecosystem that exists there, it's just incredible. And they work really well with each other, private and, you know, university. The university or the academic ecosystem works really well with private industry in the US. And so they are able to really accelerate research and development of particular ingredients and products. It's mind-blowing, really, what they can
Oh,
do.
look, I mean, no doubt. What we're learning more and more every day about the skin, and here we've got so many members and so many amazing brands. And Jan Marini has been looking after us and the industry right from the very beginning. You actually are sponsors of ABIC and members of ABIC right from pretty much the get-go. And that's really saying a lot about your philosophy of giving back to the industry. And all of our members, including the ones that are watching now, a component of why you're watching and a component of why you're a member out there as well is because you want to learn and want to educate yourself. You want to elevate standards, but there is an element for everybody watching now and for yourselves as well to give back to the industry and give back to each other and elevate each other. And that means elevating people in the industry and sometimes your competitors. And it's okay to be united, and it's okay to stand together and celebrate each other's brands and celebrate each other's achievements. And that's what we were talking about the other day. And I think that's what makes Jan Marini so unique, as well as, you know, most of our members so unique in that altruistic give back and the greater good of let's research, let's research in, let's do this so that we all
has
benefit.
Always been really good at that. She, you know, she does a lot of open source stuff. So peptides, for example, you know, she taught a lot of the companies how to manufacture peptides. Not her specifically, her science team.
Right.
She doesn't manufacture them herself, but she comes up, she does the research, develops an idea, and then
everyone benefits. And this is what we're talking about today. Today is an episode where we give you back the knowledge that we've got collectively so that you can enhance we've actually got a question. Aphrodite, hello. I've been seeing you on all the lives lately. Aphrodite, we love you. Thank you so much for your support. It was amazing talking to you the other day as well. I love talking to members, and I love it when members reach out to me and, you know, want to have conversations about everything and anything to do with the industry. She's asked us a question now, and can you please give us some information about green science?
Viv, that's your forefront. You love that question.
I love that question. Green science. There is a big move around the world against green science because there's no such thing as green science. The whole clean beauty industry is going to be dead in the water in 5 years because people are starting to recognize what it's about. It's just marketing. So clean science is when a laboratory has subjected itself to regulatory oversight. So it's if, for example, Jan Marini is current good manufacturing practice compliant, which means every bit of equipment must be pharmaceutical grade and current. It can't be something that was purchased 10 years ago. Every ingredient has to have a full toxicology profile. Every ingredient source has to have the same or be subject to the same onerous conditions. That to me is clean beauty, right? Because it's pharmaceutical grade. So when stuff gets mixed up in a kitchen, you know, in a Thermomix or whatever you might use, and beautifully branded and beautifully marketed as clean products or green products, that it's not really It's conveying a message that the regulators around the world are saying is a false message.
Mm.
So they're all working on it at the moment, currently, as we speak. FDA, TGA, ACCC, the European Commission, and lots of other countries, the UK, for example, South Africa, they're all looking at what does this mean, this clean movement, because it's very misleading.
And even like the green, Aphrodite, I'm not sure with green is like part of the recycling world. Steph, can you
Yeah, look, the TGA and governing bodies are looking at this in particular, and they're looking at claims that skincare companies are making with regards to their actual products, you know, coming out and saying an outright claim that hasn't been registered with the TGA. Because of course, if you've got a skincare brand that's making an actual claim about the results that they can achieve in a measurable way, without referring to them in a specific way, they can get themselves in trouble. But this green movement, I think, there's been no checks and balances to what does green mean. It means something different to everyone, and that's why you need to give your definition to it. There is such a thing as conscious beauty, so that brand is conscious about the way that they do it, and if they explain what they mean by they are conscious in their decision making practices and they share those, then that's transparent. And if they're not and they're just claiming that they're green without an explanation of it, I think that's what the TGA is cracking down on. But
and the word green too, Steph, it's interesting because okay, we're in the world, right? So we get it. But if you were a consumer, you'd think green was, oh, I'm recyclable, I'm green, I'm environmentally friendly. Whereas we're talking about is the science clean and green. So it's, again, it's interesting because in what marketing ploy and what, you know, and we're all involved in the marketing. We've got brands, so that's, you know, we understand the importance of marketing. So I'm not, but it's the ambiguous nature of the word, isn't it? Like, I think that's what's green might mean to someone, oh, they're environmentally friendly. Green, is it clean science? It's all ambiguous out there in the marketplace.
The ACCC is really having a close look at that at the moment. They released a public statement in December last year and said they're not at all happy about it. They're going to scrutinise it carefully because what it suggests to the market, if someone's branding their product as clean or green, it suggests that the others are dirty, and that's not true. They might be in fact an inferior product. It's just the way it's presented to the market.
It's the ambiguity of it all. It's that, you know, it's a play on words theoretically, isn't it?
I think there's a part of a larger issue and a larger crackdown for transparency in the whole industry, and that's starting with treatments and skincare and so forth. I think that probably some extra regulation is needed. We need to be careful we're not going the other way completely and then stifling information, because you know, can easily go the other way and stop brands from actually talking about themselves.
TGA have expressed a desire to harmonise with the rest of the world. So the US is leading the way at the moment with their modernisation of Cosmetic Regulations Act. So the whole world will, you know, streamline.
Wow. I love that you've said that they are looking to harmonise with the rest of the world. Let's harmonise in the cosmetic and non-surgical space too, because I think we are the strictest in the world when it comes to non-surgical cosmetic enhancements, but that's another kettle of fish. But I think harmonisation with the world is a good start. I think let's get back to our topic of
Sorry.
We went on a massive tangent there, but it's awesome that we get these questions. I just wanted to say hello to Tanya, who's watching, Dana, Missy, Samantha, Angie, of course, Aphrodite, and for your question. Please, if you've got questions, ask us. That would be wonderful. Christy Sinclair said, love this. I've got Michelle Howard on, Sarah, Candy, Teresa Russo. Oh my gosh, the list goes on. I wish I could say all your names, but there's a few there. So,
Hey, everyone.
but Hi, Missy. Hello. She said hello. We're so glad when you interact with us and ask us questions because we are here for you. And if you do want to interrupt us with a question, we will absolutely do our best to answer it. Today we're talking about skin metabolism and holistic skin health. If you've just joined with two experts from Jan Marini, Kelly, and Vivien, and they are both a wealth of knowledge, and we've covered so many topics. The most interesting one so far has been our skin metabolism, and we've established, oh my goodness, how many processes are happening at the same time within our skin to make it function, that it communicates with all parts of our body. It doesn't just signal back to our brain, it signals back and forth from our organs as well. And what we do topically really makes a difference, because skincare applied topically we are finding is having a larger effect internally as well, because our microbiome on our skin is also linked with our gut microbiome. They talk to each other and they signal, and there is unknown interactions there that one is really healthy and doing well, suggesting that the other one also feeds off that. So there's so much depth to this topic. And my next question is about holistic skin health. Now, everybody has their own definition of holistic skin health, what that means to a particular brand or a particular therapist or a particular practitioner. I'd love to know, and I love asking this question, what is your, Jan Marini's, definition of holistic skin health? And I know it's a big one, but we'd love to know.
It's really quite simple. Holistic skin health is the absence of inflammation. It's as simple as that. Okay. So if you can calm inflammation in the skin, then you'll find that the things that you are concerned about are going to be not as evident. And over time, you can target those particular concerns specifically and address them. But if you have an absence of inflammation, that's the first step. People feel more comfortable in their skin, and that helps them in other ways. It helps de-stress their mind, declutter their mind, right? If you have inflamed skin, your body's busy trying to repair it, trying to deal with the inflammation. And, you know, all the signals that are potentially affecting your gut, your mood, the pain in your tennis elbow, you know, who knows? It's, as we said before, we're just really scratching the very surface of understanding what this is all about. But certainly the absence of inflammation is key. Once you've got that under control, and it only needs to take a few days. It's not something that you need to battle for 12 months. With the right topicals, you can calm that inflammation. And coming from the medical world, the hospital world, the surgeon's world, inflammation was great. That's how we all started, you know, lasers and IPLs, or even topical tretinoin and hydroquinone. It was the inflammatory process that we thought was doing the good through the shock proteins, you know, the heat proteins, etc. But we've come to understand over time that no, inflammation is not good. And the sooner you can calm it down, even when you're doing an aggressive device treatment, you want to get that inflammation under control, because that's when things can start to settle. You'll have less redness, less pigmentation, less general inflammation, less swelling, less all sorts of things. So
it's funny, Viv, I often say to people, you know, what's the first thing you do when you get sick as a person? If your temperature's up, what do you want to do to your whole body? Right? You want to bring the temperature back to a level where your body can do what it does, and that's heal itself ultimately, because that's systemic. That's what we will do. But it's interesting with skin. People will let it be inflamed and go, oh, that's just my skin. You know, that's just the acne, that's just the rosacea, that's just the whatever. And it's almost like they make up all these excuses. But again, going back to that, what we talked about, that amazing organ of the skin, where all these things are happening. If we don't control that inflammation, the skin is not in a state where it can heal itself.
Yeah.
So, you know, the whole concept, what Viv just said, is like putting it back into a place where it'll do its job.
Yeah.
You know?
Restoring homeostasis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But we all just look at it and go, oh, it's just our skin. Don't
Yeah,
worry
so
about it, you
we're
know?
very, and I'm guilty of this too. Before I came across Jan Marini, I used to try everything. That didn't work, so I'll try something else the next day, and then something else the next day, or I'll mix things up, cherry pick from this brand and that brand and the other brand, and nothing ever worked. But the assault on my skin was what was doing all the damage. I had terrible skin after I had babies, rosacea and acne, breakouts all the time. It was so hard to manage. But the day I started using Jan Marini, I've never looked back. And that's true of any really well formulated, scientifically sound skincare range, because once you restore homeostasis, the inflammation settles down, you're not going to break out or flare up or discolor at the same rate, if at all.
And
Wow.
the skin will help you're helping and signaling again, what we talk about with Jan Marini, like if you put that skin in a state of homeostasis, then your body will do what it's supposed to do. Your skin can do what it's supposed to do. And then the topical application of the right skincare will assist in that process as well. And it's just a lovely place to be. When you're working with skincare like that looked at it as the whole organ, not
when
an individual skin
so
condition, but a whole organ. And then we adapt to the skin condition.
It's such a joy to use too.
Yeah, it is.
It really gives you a zing.
It gives you a zing. You know what well, firstly, we're talking about inflammation. So let's clarify. Not all inflammation is bad. So a lot of the times we're talking about acute inflammation, the response to that, the triggering the pathways to healing is actually beneficial.
Yeah,
it is.
Chronic, long-term, uncontrolled, unknown inflammatory sources is not unmanaged, uncontrolled. So we're talking about long-term, unmanaged, uncontrolled inflammation.
Exactly.
What we do as therapists is instigate, that healing cascade through an initial.
Correct. And that balance is, over the years, as Viv said, that's really like Viv and I have been around long enough when you just all out assault, right?
Yeah.
But the science has got it to the point of just knowing where to create that inflammation to trigger the whole process.
And that's important.
And you don't want it to linger, Stef.
That's right.
I
was about to say that. We want to, I know, because I've got clinics too. So it's like, we know, well, I tell myself, because I don't want everybody out there to think we are against what you do out there. Because we have clinics, we know exactly that there is a balancing act, right? So you need to get it right. And when you trigger the signals, you immediately then are shutting that long-term inflammation down. You're reducing the time that inflammation is present, but the process has already begun. The
process, the damage that you're causing with your treatments is to improve scarring or, whatever reason, improve the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, whatever treatment you're doing, remove keratoses off the surface. But what we do, even after the most aggressive treatments, so we'll do CO2 laser resurfacing or Fraxel or, a really aggressive RF, whatever we do, we put on healing peptides immediately after, so that it just takes all the inflammation out of the skin, because then the skin's not battling against the inflammation. If it's doing that, it's not going to be producing collagen, healing the wound. It's just all out under assault, and the signals are flying everywhere, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So the more signaling that's going on, the more uptake of bad things that can happen, like collagen degradation or, enzymatic changes, or the receptors are all disturbed. So the sooner you can calm that inflammation after the treatment, the better your results are going to be. You'll still get the result, but you'll get it much faster and without all that downtime. So it's really important to understand the way inflammation affects skin healing, modulation of signals, all that sort of thing.
And it's the best thing to ever learn. I've done some, not recently, but I've done a bit of training with the institutes, and there's some great institutes out there, and the students are there, and it's great to go and speak to them because they're all bug-eyed and they want to hear everything you say. But the first thing I say to them is go and learn about wound healing. If you've never been exposed to wound healing, it's a really easy. There's so much on Google and great images and everything. Go and learn wound healing, then come back and resume your studies, because you'll understand why all this stuff is happening, because the scientists are following the natural process of wound healing. And it's a real buzz when you
it's
put
good.
two and two together. It makes you better at your job.
It's a good understanding too of how the skin repairs itself.
Correct. Yeah.
I've had
Then you
lots of
understand, Viv, why you do this, why you use peptides, why you do that. So if you can learn wound healing, you're just so much better at your job. It just makes it just like light bulbs go on, and you go, okay, great, bring it on. Let me get the products on the skin. Let me do the advanced treatments, because you get the why and you complete the picture.
Yep. And skin, a wound won't heal if there's dead tissues around. So you've got to debride the dead tissues to get the granulation tissue going. And it's the same with skin. If you've got a big, thick, dull stratum corneum on the surface, nothing that you do is really going to improve it. You can do a laser or something on it, and yes, that will improve it, but you'll have the complication of all the inflammation that you cause if you're removing several layers of epidermis. So it's really important to understand that the dead tissue that might be on the surface of your skin that you're addressing with whatever treatment you're doing, you can go beyond the result that you would expect if you stabilize that thick outer layer first, thin it down a little bit, then whatever invasive treatment you're doing, be it needling or Fraxel or whatever else it might be, RF, then that treatment is going to come into contact with the dermis much more readily. So think about that too. When people say, Jan always says, when people say, oh, but don't resurfacing agents, chemical agents, thin your skin, and she always says, I hope so, because what you want a thin, compact stratum corneum. That's what gives you the glow. And you want a healthy, thickened dermis. And we lose collagen at such a rapid rate after the age of 30. We just, but we've lost 40% of our collagen by the age of 45. So
lucky we're all under 45, aren't we? We're
lucky. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to address all those things. And Kelly's right. An understanding of wound healing is a really good way to.
And Viv, it's interesting you bring, if I can go back, Steph, to the metabolism, that study that we both looked at, and I'll get and send it through to you. I'll have to look it up. But it actually said that the one major thing, of course they use vitamin A, that's a given, right? But they said exfoliation of the skin, Viv, exactly what you said, refining the stratum corneum is one of the key things to increasing the metabolic rate of the skin.
Yep.
And that's Jan's philosophy right with glycolic, right from the word go.
And there's a lot of talk about new skincare science versus old skincare science versus tried and tested glycolics and salicylics and so forth, and the new way of, oh no, let's not ever put a glycolic on our skin, it's only do enzymatic, or there's so much controversy there. And I can tell you from a formulation perspective that don't believe the hype. There is benefits in all skincare ingredients, is how they're formulated, how they're delivered, and how they're used, and on what skin types they're used, that makes the difference. It's not a blanket rule for every ingredient. What have you got to say about that?
Okay, so I'll say something. We've got a lot to say about glycolic acid. Glycolic acid is the smallest molecule. It's the only one that will penetrate into the follicle. So if you're dealing with open pores or microcomedones or actual acne, full-blown acne, only glycolic acid is going to help at a rapid rate. So the others will help superficially, but they're all too big molecules. So they don't penetrate into the follicle. And you need an agent that gets into the follicle, because what you're trying to do is dissolve the glue that's binding all those dead cells and trapping the oil in the follicle. That's why that's the beginning of the acne process, the microcomedone. So you want to try and get rid of it. Glycolic acid got a bad rap because the guys that invented it, who started the brand Neostrata, wouldn't sell their IP to a big corporation, which will remain unnamed. So they spent the next 10 years bagging glycolic acid. because they wanted the rights to it, and the obvious return on owning those royalties. So glycolic acid and retinol are the two most studied skincare ingredients.
They sure are.
In the history of the world. So, and the studies they're still studying them today. Scientists go down these rabbit holes with those two ingredients to find there's new stuff every week, new papers being published every week. And these are extraordinary ingredients, retinol and glycolic acid. You've got to be using them. If you're not using them, you're not going to see the results.
Agreed. There is a lot of talk, and I sometimes hear, oh no, but I don't want to use that. No, I'd rather use another derivative, and that's fine. That's your choice. That's absolutely fine. But the misinformation campaign that's out there against those two particular ingredients. And as I said, we know, we're the experts, we see behind the scenes, we see exactly what's going on. There is actually a misinformation campaign going on about those two particular ingredients. And they are the most tested. They are the most successful.
And they're not easy to formulate.
Absolutely not. They are genius. They are two genius ingredients.
Brilliant.
And there's no denying that. Absolutely. Everybody's got a different skincare philosophy. But that remains a constant scientific consensus, right? And you can't argue against data. You can argue, have a debate, but you can't argue against those.
And the body, what we describe it as the body of literature, the body of scholarly literature. So there's such a huge body of it. It's not just one study here and one study there. I think there's this concept that when someone talks about data, that, oh, well, that's the answer then, there's data. But the data could be what they used last week. That could be their data, what they used themselves last week. So no control, one person study. Data should be defined as the body of scholarly literature.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not to discount all other ingredients out there. That's just to bring a reality back into those two extremely well researched ingredients that have really done our industry such a good, and so skincare, because we're now running out of time. We've gone over time because usually they're 30 minutes. Let's just end up with skincare philosophy. There's so many brands out there. A skincare philosophy is something that is resonates through a whole brand, and skincare philosophies are not right or wrong. They just are your belief system and how your products are formulated. What is the essence of your brand? And I'd really love to know, what's the essence of Jan Marini? What is their skincare formulation philosophy?
To be as scientifically sound as possible for a start. That's definitely, but Jan Marini's mission is to address people's skin concerns, everyday skin concerns. And she comes from being a 2-time Roaccutane failure. So she had terrible acne in her early 20s. And that started her down the road of exploring agents that might help. So that's when she discovered glycolic acid and brought it to market with MD formulations. But the philosophy of the brand is addressing people's everyday concerns they have about their skin and providing solutions, not just more products.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming and sharing so much knowledge that you have, and your passion as well, because when we have these lives, it injects us all with a sense of passion and purpose. And that's really what we need to drive us every day in these somewhat challenging times that we're experiencing financially, the economy, legislation, changing HR, IR. It's hard to run a business these days. If you've got a business, it's hard to run it. If you're an employee, you're feeling the challenges out there. And we as ABIC always aim to give you some of that passion back and that love back about what you do.
I think
every day.
I think all the investment coming into this industry, it's unsettling the industry a bit, but the fact that there is so much investment coming in means that it's an industry that's headed for huge growth. So hang in there, teams. Just, it's tough times at the moment, but hang in there.
We'll come out the other side. Hey, Viv, we're very big firm believers in that. Do your job, do it well. We're constantly all day, every day, Viv and I going, it's exciting. Whatever's going when we come out of this, it's going to be exciting. So let's just
Right.
hang in and see where
We're
we're
hearing
going.
it. We're hearing it's winter now, but if you all hang in there and if you need help to hang in, you
Yeah.
can call ABIC. That's what we're here for. We're helping you to hang in. Use us, use our resources, use our facilitators. Call us. We can speak with you and help you through whatever times you're and give you advice. We've given so many people advice. And we're going to continue to do so. So please reach out. And thank you again so much for coming on to this live. I think it was super fun. And I loved the bit where we nerded out like crazy. I think we need to do that next time more. Just come and
It was
be
really
total
fun.
care.
Thanks,
Yeah, it
Kelly,
was
for
great.
your help, and thanks, Steph, for having us.
welcome.
And
Thank
hang
ABIC.
in
Thank
there,
everyone who's
everyone.
listening.
Be
We
true
really
to
appreciate it.
yourselves. Yeah, be true to yourselves and
Thank
love
you.
what you do.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye,
Okay,
ladies.
bye.